Good morning. Thank you very much to all of you for giving me this opportunity to be here. I'm going to talk about politics and politicians for a little bit. I think Neeraj ended on a bright note, so I think that's where we begin our discussion for the next few minutes. Imagine for a moment that you come to ISB to train on business and accounting and all of that. But then when you get to your job, what they expect you to do is to teach salsa dancing maybe. Right. Imagine if you had to take decisions for your company right from the time you graduated from ISB, but with no faculty in ISB at all. And maybe that's a good thing, but that's another matter. Imagine if you had to read something like 2,000 pages a day of material on subjects that you have never heard about before to do your job even half decently, and you had no support to do it. Imagine if you're clubbed with some of the bad apples in the corporate sector and said, "Oh my God, you're going to be in the corporate sector? Don't touch this guy, don't touch this woman ever." Welcome to the world of politics and parliament. What I want to do today is actually three things. Talk about some myths, talk about the challenge, and talk about the opportunity. So I've titled my talk called The Other Face of MPs. So this is typically what we see in the media. MPs sort of arguing, rushing to the well of the House in Parliament. I haven't taken some of the choicest pictures from state assemblies that I'm sure you've heard of in the media. But this is mostly the cash for the trust vote and some of the other things that we see in Parliament from time to time. What we also see in the media is Parliament actually meets for fewer days. I don't know if you've ever seen these kinds of reports in the newspapers, but if you actually see over the last 50 years, there's been a steady decline in how many days Parliament meets every year. If you look at the graph of when Parliament meets, it meets for 3 sessions in a year, and you take 3 of those sessions and say, if you divide it into 5 parts, equal parts, and look at when bills are passed in the House, legislation is made, laws are made. So I've just taken some examples, some recent examples. There you go. The last part, which is last part of a session, which is in the red at the very end, is when most legislation is passed. Now it's like many of us, when we are studying for an exam, we cram up when the exam is the closest. So when you want to pass legislation, you have a certain number of things you want to get done this session, so you cram up everything because you wasted a lot of time in the beginning. These are things that get reported in the press, and this is of course all dismal stuff. Of course, we've been hearing from time to time about how much money our MPs make, tons of money. In 2007, they got a pay hike from a grand 12,000 rupees a month to a super grand 16,000 rupees a month. And one of the leading newspapers, the headline was this: MPs give themselves a 33% pay hike. Of course that's true, but the base is 12,000 rupees a month. And of course we've heard of all the wonderful perks that members of Parliament get. They get 34 free trips a year on airplanes. What do they do with that? Most members of Parliament I've worked with in the past fly from Delhi to the constituency and back when Parliament is in session, so they can be back in the constituency every weekend. That's what they use it for. If you're going and representing your company for some business, and then your company pays you to travel, would you consider that a perk, or would you consider that official business? Just wanted to highlight some of these things that we've been hearing about. Now, let me pause here for a moment and ask you, if you were to have free choice of attending class or not, would a lot of you attend very regularly? I wouldn't. In my engineering days, I probably had attendance of 25% or maybe 30%. Attendance for MPs, in Parliament, the requirement is they have to be present. They cannot be absent for 60 continuous. They can't have a gap of 60 days. A gap of 60 days from one attendance date to another attendance date. So you really, if Parliament is working for 60 days in a year, you could potentially attend Parliament for just 1 or 2 days in a year and be completely sort of legally not in conflict with what the Parliament wants. But look at the attendance rates here, just to show you. Way back, just for the last 2 years, to give you a glimpse of attendance rates of Parliament. Sounds impressive. 78% is the average in the last year or so. I wouldn't have attended if I had the choice of not to attend. Of course, the yellow spot up there, like the Airtel antenna, is on the day of the trust vote. Most people showed up. But even otherwise, if you look at attendance rates in the 15th Lok Sabha, which is what's shown up there, you have in the range of 80% in the last year or so. And that's very impressive. So what I want to do is show you that there is another side of MPs that the media doesn't show, but I just want a couple of other things. The other thing we often talk about is the education levels of our Parliament. In dinner table conversations, which I used to have 5 years ago and earlier, and perhaps you have right now, when you see those scenes in Parliament, you say, oh my God, these are an uneducated bunch of people, right? These guys are illiterate, and it's easy to pass these comments. But look at the trend of education levels in Parliament. So the first line that you're looking at is under matriculates, starting from 1952 to 2009. The second is matriculates and higher secondary. The third is graduates, college graduates. This light yellow is, light green is postgraduates. And the last is doctoral degrees. That's impressive. That's impressive by any global standard. So when I present this, of course, we are so cynical as an audience, we have bought these degrees. Right? That's the level of cynicism with our politicians. So let me pause for a moment and say, when we actually think about some of the behaviors of politicians, most of which we actually detest. What do we ask as voters? What do our newspapers ask when politicians go for re-election? Did you fix the potholes on my street? Can you give my daughter a job, a transfer? That's what we focus on. What is the real role of an MP, right? Most of us actually don't know. If you'd be surprised if I polled this room here, I get more than 50% wrong answers. That's the role of an MP. It's not to fix your streets. It's not to make sure your borewells are working in your constituency. It's actually to make laws It's actually to make sure that the government that's supposed to put the borewells in is actually doing its job, not by inspecting what's happening in the constituency, but by looking at numbers that the government gives them and says, oh, by the way, you said this is not happening. That's the job of an MP. It is to scrutinize the budget that the government passes and says, oh, by the way, why are you allocating so much for water? You should actually be allocating more money for training of youngsters for jobs. Whatever that is, whatever your priority is. That's the role of an MP. So, just to give you an order of magnitude, a typical session of Parliament, the winter and the monsoon sessions are about 4 to 5 weeks long. It's about 20 days of meetings, of 20 sittings. And the budget session is about 35, 40 sittings. So in a typical 5-week session, if you take the whole of the 14th Lok Sabha, we had 15 sessions of Parliament over the 5 years. And these are the number of documents that are tabled in Parliament. What do you mean by a document being tabled in Parliament? The reason why you put up a document, an annual report, a report of a committee, a report of something else in Parliament is so that MPs can scrutinize those documents and make sure they hold the government to account and saying, by the way, this is what you've said in your policy document, and this is not good because it causes job loss, or whatever it is that you want to sort of take up. How many do they get? They get on average 1,400 documents per session of Parliament. And these documents could be 100, 200, 500 pages long. So what support do they have to make all of this happen? They have a research staff that is non-existent. They have 0 research staff. They have a Parliament library that says if the MP goes and asks for research, the Parliament library gives photocopies of newspaper articles for the last 3 months and say, oh, by the way, this is what you want to know about civil nuclear liability, take it. This is what you want to know about the right to education, take it, because this is what the newspapers have said. So we've always sort of maintained that you can't base national policy on newspaper reports. So MPs have no office space. We actually meet them in their homes when we go across and brief them. What we believe is that if you have a setup, if you've been given a task and you're not allowed the infrastructure that is required to do your job, you're basically setting up the institution for failure. Parliament, in our view, has been set up to fail. So what we are doing in PRS, and I'll conclude with this, is to say, look, you as legislators, you as members of Parliament should take good decisions for us, and for that, what you need is to have good research reaching you in a timely manner before you take your decisions, so that you can take a more informed decision on whatever it is that you want to take. We don't make a recommendation one way or the other. When we started, the big question with several Indian successful entrepreneurs, industrialists, was we'd asked several of these people to fund us. The question they asked us was, oh, will these MPs ever use this stuff? आपको तो पता है, मतलब ये लोग कैसे हैं? Use करेंगे क्या? And I had no answer, because this was the first time that anyone was doing this in the country. I turned around and asked the question and said, look, if we want our MPs to take the right decisions for us, to take more informed decisions for us, do we need such an institution in India that supports them with research? If the answer is yes, then whether it takes 2 months for them to get used to this idea of research, or 2 years, or 20, we need to build that institution and make it happen. That's how PRS was born about 4.5 years ago. But surprisingly, even to us, when we sent out our first analysis of issues that came up in Parliament, we got letters from all the sort of well-known Vajpayee, Sonia Gandhi, Advani, and people like that, saying, thank you very much for your letter. We'll be in touch, or we've made note of it, or whatever, something like that. But they had staff. They had research staff. They had staff who could write letters back to acknowledge letters. Most others don't even have that. The second time we sent something, an MP called up and said, this is important. Are you here for real? Will you be doing work on issues that come up in Parliament across subjects? So we said yes. In 4.5 years today, we have 250 members of Parliament who actively reach out to us across issues that come up in Parliament. That I'm saying really to point out that there are 250 members of Parliament across parties who are saying, I want to understand the issue no matter what decision I take. I want to invest the time, and these meetings, just mind you, can go on, start from 7 in the morning till about 8:30, 9 at night for us. So this is busy time for us in part. This is our peak season, as it were. Parliament is in session right now, if you don't know that. So the good news is, there is another side of Parliament and politicians and parliamentarians that we don't see on a daily basis. And that's the opportunity. The opportunity for us is to say, look, we may not like the politicians and politics the way it's played out right now in the country, but we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is the opportunity for us to say, as people who can think, who have the guts to take up things and do, this is the opportunity for us to come out and say, what is it that we can do to fix this? Not for us, for our children and their children and their children. Thank you very much.